what is it with women and toilet paper? Do they not realize that you could just use a moderate amount? Like, do they go through like 2 rolls each a day? It's absolutely insane. I swear to God, every time they're in the bathroom, they just spin it like it's the big wheel on The Price is Right. In this economy, with inflation being as bad as it is, I'm gonna get like a pile of rags and just put it in the corner.
Mashup 110, folks. Mashup 110.
Doesn't matter how old, like kids, full-grown women, all of them.
Yes, they enjoy their toilet paper. Twos, how are you doing this week?
Twos is doing great. He's extra excited given the special guest we've got this week.
Yeah, but
Sean.
Before I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Let's start here, okay? Mashup 110 brought to you by the Parental Rights Tour featuring Dr. James Lindsay. He's going to be through Bonnyville, Edmonton, Red Deer, Calgary, and Brooks, June 21st to 24th. You can get your tickets. We'll toss it in the comments, and it'll be in the show notes. And if you've never heard Dr. James Lindsay, he's been a guest on Joe Rogan multiple times. He's an American author. He's got his PhD in mathematics. He's the host of the new Discourses podcast. I think you kind of get the point. Twos, any thoughts on that quick?
Super qualified dude. Pretty interesting. I had a couple beer with him after the show in Calgary. Very great guy to chat with, and obviously a very accomplished speaker.
You can tell he speaks on stage a lot because
yes.
he was, I think I timed it. It was like 37 minutes. Yes, I'm that weird guy who's timing speakers and seeing how they do. And he was like concise to the point and took 37 minutes, and it was like beautifully done from beginning to end. And so looking forward to see him in Bonnyville. I'll be in Bonnyville. Looking forward to seeing that crowd and what it does. It should be an interesting night, I guess, is what I'm trying to spit out.
Just try not to get stabbed.
All right, it's Happy Airborne. Well, actually, just before we get to that, it's Coots 2. Let's start there. 845 days now. Chris Carbert, Anthony Olenek. You can follow along on Twitter. I've been following with Mocha Bazurgan. That seems to be one of the main spots to go to see some information coming out about the trial and what's been going on there. But 845 days now. And then Happy Airborne Friday to Jamie Sinclair. Oh, wait a sec. Do we have that mofo in here? We do. Oh, Jamie Sinclair. Happy Airborne Friday to you. Thank you. All you boys.
Thank you.
He looks so full of energy since he retired.
Since I retired? No, in the Army you don't retire. They call it a departure with dignity. So you still got to work. But they just say you can't work there anymore.
You still got to work. They're just going to not pay you.
That had something to do with me not getting vaccinated. So they're like, "You're out, Sinclair." I'm like, "All right." So what do you do?
Well, let's start here. Twos, what headline you got for me to start? Well, and we'll get the reason Jamie is kicking on here. Normandy, nice and easy. D-Day, 80 years ago. Almost 160,000 troops landed on the beaches of Normandy that day, including some 14,000 Canadians. June 6th marked the beginning of the bloody 77-day Battle of Normandy and the start of the Allied liberation of France. More than 2 million Allied soldiers, sailors, pilots, medics, and others from a dozen countries took part in Operation Overlord in western France. In the end, the toll was enormous. 73,000 Allied forces were killed and 153,000 wounded. Around 20,000 French civilians were also killed, many as a result of the Allied bombings of the French villages and cities. The region's cemeteries are also the final resting place for more than 5,000 Canadians, including 359 who were killed on D-Day. Jamie, you're there. You were there for the ceremony and everything. Take it away.
Well, first I gotta say, I can't thank Normandy enough for how they remember 80 years later the people that gave them back their liberty. I'll just start off by saying we started at Juno Beach on where we landed at Nan Green. The rifles pushed inwards. Captain Grayson, he took a pillbox that was essential to take. He took it by himself with a pistol and some hand grenades that opened the door for the Regina Rifles to breach the seawall and move inland. and it got there was some pretty nasty fighting from there. The opponents that we fought were the most dedicated SS warriors that Hitler had in his pocket, and he lined them up against us because back in World War I, we were called the stormtroopers. Wherever the Canadians were on the line, he had them in front of them. They would put their best to match up against with the Canadians. So they knew what they were getting into, and once they found where the Canadians were, they knew we were the spearhead. We had the British to the left and right flank of us, but we went up the gut. And as we got off the beachhead and moved inland, we were about 8 clicks inland on the first day. The second day, we ended up in a place called Bretteville, where we fought off a German Panzer division with small caliber weapons and basically held the line. The Winnipeg Rifles broke to our one flank, and the unit to our left, I think it was the Sea Scots, they weren't able to hold their ground. Thankfully for some quick thinking on the Rifles' part and people understanding the ground and what they had, they're able to defend against such an onslaught of tanks and 12,000 men. So yeah, it was horrific fighting on the first, through the whole campaign. But last night we were at a place in between Nangreen and Bretteville, where they have a cemetery out in the middle of a farmer's field. Anyways, it's just beautiful. And you hear all these little kids from the schools, and they come out there and they actually know every rifleman that died up to that point, and they write a story about these men and where they died, and then they go and find their graves, and all the graves had little candles on them. It was beautiful. I'm sorry, guys.
No apologies, Jamie.
No apology necessary.
Anyways,
or permitted.
I've been to lots of ceremonies and such, but nothing like that. Like when you got kindergarten kids singing the national anthem and in French and shaking your hands and so appreciative that 80 years later that they have their freedoms, it means something. And it's, I'm not saying that Canadians don't do the same thing. It's just Canadians have never been occupied, and they don't understand what's at risk, I guess. And so we do a good job back home, and we do all the right things. Like, I'm not trying to say Canada doesn't, the Canadian people, they do appreciate soldiers and such. It's just, if you've never been occupied and you've never been under the thumb of tyranny, it's different. And it shows in these kids 80 years later. So it's just a beautiful thing.
Could you tell the audience about Operation Calvados? I know that's there's a huge chunk of Royal Regina Rifles that went over this year specifically for that, as well as I'm sure the 80-year anniversary.
Yeah. So Operation Calvados was started by Eddie Staniowski, General Walker, and Eddie picked a very he picked the best guys possible in our community to help them through this. There's too many to mention, and everybody from a grandmother with $5 to some big name families that are in our province, they donated and were able to raise money for this bronze statue that sits in Bretteville. That's 8 feet high, and it's amazing. But we wouldn't have been able to get it all done, although the people at home helping. But over here, there's a Friends of the Regiment. So in Normandy, I don't know of any other regiment that has French people that have their own Regina Rifle Regiment. They call it the Friends of the Regiment, and they have suppers together, they have dinners together, they go to schools and do presentations, and they keep the memories alive of how grateful they are for the Regina Rifles coming through. And it's truly special. Like I've been a Patricia, but was in the airborne as well, and yes, people are thankful. Like, but this is a special group of people that are over here in France that help us through whatever it is. Like if we needed a ride or you know anything that we needed done when we were in Canada, they did it for us over here. So it's truly special. And Antoine's the kind of the lead of it all. And how it got started is years ago he was wondering like who liberated his part of France. Like he knew the Canadians came through, and he wanted to do a deep dive into the Canadian Army, and because we fought in his area so much, you know, he really got to understand who the Rifles were. He obviously heard of the Rifles before because there's all kinds of plaques and such things like that around here. And the old French resistance guys that were kids, like 10, 12 years old, that were, you know, blowing up rail lines and knocking down telephone poles with dynamite and shit back in those days. They're old enough to remember the Rifles coming inland, and they all wear like Regina Rifle stuff. They don't wear any other regimental stuff other than ours. And it's so cool to see these old guys. They obviously respected the fighting ability of the Rifles.
I don't know. Twos, you got anything before we let Jamie out? I know I think it's just sitting on this side of this show and D-Day coming up 80 years to get Jamie over there and be able to talk from there. You know, I got lots of cool moments on the podcast. This is kind of up there. Like this is super, almost a bit surreal. I don't know, from you being there, Jamie, I assume there's some I'd read that this is maybe one of the final anniversaries where men who actually fought in D-Day would be there. I don't know, like you're sitting there. What sticks out to you?
I got a great story about that. So there is an old veteran here from the Regina Rifles. So Prime Minister Trudeau and King, whatever his name is, Philip or whatever, King Charles, he came down to the beach. And so they got all this security detail out on the beach, so that King Charles and whatever our leader's name is, I don't even want to talk about him. Anyways,
I'm pretty sure the only reason why he. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So this whole vet wants to go like onto the beach and put his feet in the water, kind of thing. So as he's going down there, he's being escorted by like 20 riflemen in full dress, and the security detail's like, "No, you can't come down here." And they more or less said, "Get the fuck out of the way." And they what are they going to do, right? So this 90-something-year-old guy got to go to the beach. It's pretty cool. I'm sorry, Twos. If I had your toilet paper over here, I would have went through 4 cases of it by now.
Man,
it's been pretty emotional, but
there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh man, it was awesome. Like just pushed their way right through the security detail and got down on the beach and took him out there, got him some sand and got his feet wet and brought him back. So yeah, it was pretty special.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't even know what to add to say to this. I always just am at a loss for words whenever things like this come up. And I'm just like, what do you say? How do you, words trivialize it, right? You know what I mean?
You can say the Rifle cheers is up the John. So another quick story.
Yeah. So
when the Rifles ended up in England training to come over here, because we're native and farmers and ranchers, the other regiments would belittle us and call us Johns, Farmer Johns. It was not a term of endearment. It was like a way of like putting us down, right? Because we were the have nothing province of Canada, and so what the Rifles did, instead of like having that as a negative, they turned it into a positive. Like they took that name and ran with it. So they created a drinking cheers where like somebody would go, they call you Farmer Johns, and then everybody yell rifles and 1, 2, 3 up the Johns. Like they would support each other, and natives as well would say the same cheers and support each other through just volume of voice and overpowered the people trying to, belittle them. And that became a battle cry in battle. Like the one fella that just passed away recently, his last words that came out of his mouth was up the Johns before he died. And it's how do you learn that other than going through battle with these guys? And it's pretty special. It's a pretty powerful thing. So up the Johns.
Jamie Sinclair coming live from Normandy. Thanks for joining us, Jamie. Appreciate everything you do and stand for.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Okay. That is Jamie Sinclair live from Normandy. I mean, last week we just decided to shut her down, and I don't, we're going to get into the show now, but I'm like,
where do we even go from here now?
Well, we're going to go to treason in Canada is where we're going to go. But like what that was beautiful. That was just beautiful, right?
Yeah.
That's yeah. I mean,
that was pretty powerful.
I got a lot of time for Jamie Sinclair, because if you go back in the podcast to when him and Henry Seidlitz came up and talked about minor hockey, Saskatchewan minor hockey, and what they were talking about back then, man. I hate to give Jamie too much credit. I mean, on a day like today, I'm certainly going to pump his tires, but he said a lot of important things as I've went along that have really stuck out. And it's funny because at times he can be a funny guy. But as we just saw, when it comes to the serious stuff, he doesn't dance away from it, right?
Like, so multifaceted. Like when we were up all night drinking at Henry's place, he told me the story about the dog that he told you in the last military roundtable. And it's he can just go from like, oh, here's a funny story about this to here's something really powerful.
Yeah he's like that man's seen a lot. Just retired from the military, 34 years as what did he call it? I forget, but not an honorable discharge. I can't remember. Jamie, you said it. Go back and listen. Either way, 34 years in the Canadian military. All right, twos. Let's fire up. Everybody's wiped their tears. I see a few people said if he's crying, I'm crying.
We've had a lot of good comments through, but
now let's channel our inner anger. We'll see if we can't make you laugh a couple times here in the next hour.
Okay.
Let's slap at it.
Okay.
Trudeau for treason was actually right. In its inaugural report published Wednesday, the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians said it is still fighting the Liberal government to obtain all the documents it required to fulfill its mandate as an intelligence agency watchdog. But from the more than 4,000 documents reviewed by this committee and dozens of interviews with senior government and intelligence officials, it shows that foreign actors, the People's Republic of China and India are both named, have not just intimidated or pressured parliamentarians, but in some cases have enjoyed their willing collaboration. Here's a couple of the bullets. They provided information learned in confidence from the government to a known intelligence officer or foreign state of a foreign state at the request or direction of foreign officials, improperly influencing parliamentary colleagues or parliamentary business to advantage of a foreign state, providing foreign diplomatic officials with privileged information on the work or opinions of fellow parliamentarians, knowing that such information will be used by those officials to inappropriately pressure parliamentarians to change their positions. In return for which they got support from community groups or businesses during election campaigns, which the diplomatic missions promised to quietly mobilize in a candidate's favor. Also, funds or benefits from foreign missions or their proxies, which have been layered or otherwise disguised to conceal their source, which they accept knowingly or through willful blindness. There you go, twos. Treason here in Canada, and they don't want us to know who it is.
Treason is
right,
and so the report was submitted to Justin Trudeau, who declined to share it. Now, why? If you are a politician who makes everything partisan, everything's about division, and you get a report about 11 members of parliament who are on the take for a foreign power and committing actual literal treason, what would be the one reason in the world that you would not disclose immediately, that you wouldn't just leak it, just drop it off at CBC's doorstep, or just get on a pulpit and do it your fucking self?
Well,
one reason would be because it's your guys.
Correct. Yeah. I don't think anyone's staring at this going, I mean, anyone who's paying attention at all is going, well, could there be a conservative on there? Sure, there could be. Could there be two? Sure.
2015, the vast majority of donations to the Papineau riding in Quebec came from BC and had people with Asian names. Okay. And that was 2015. Right?
Yeah.
He has spent the last decade, he has pleased more dongs and more wangs than even his mother did.
Well played. Well played.
I don't even like. What the fuck is the point? Okay, so we're gonna unbuzz this for a minute. Okay,
sure. Well, we can spend 5 minutes. Yeah,
the politics are doing nothing. The politicians are doing nothing about this. The media is mostly silent about it. You've got a couple grudging reports here and there, and then Global's kind of invested in it because they've got a vested interest in the outcome because they're going to get sued if it doesn't come out. Isn't it funny how they respond to financial incentives? Interestingly enough.
Correct.
CSIS does nothing. They had to get a whistleblower to leak the document. RCMP's been supposedly doing something, but like, does anybody honestly think that anything is going to fucking happen with this? What the fuck is the point of Confederation at this point? Why are we even in this country? Every single institution has the deck totally stacked in this banana republic favor. Why are we even here? Why do we even talk about this shit every week, Sean? What in the fuck is the point of us pointing out how fucking broken this little part of it is and that little part of it is when the entire fucking thing is in ruins?
I don't have much to add here. Honestly, we can sit here and berate it for 5 minutes, 20 minutes. They're saying 11. Is it 11? Is it more? It doesn't matter. There's 11. They're saying they're not going to announce who they are. So that they get to go back into work after that they're undermining.
So somebody's committing treason. Okay, we need to know who it is. We're not going to tell you.
We're not going to tell you.
All right, fair enough. Let's just go back to more SNC Lavalin bullshit.
Welcome to Canada. Bingo twos. Michelle Krieger saying, yeah, conservative candidates dropped. Listen, twos. Just my final thought is like,
yeah,
you're saying the sentiment I've felt for probably a year now since we started showing all the money. Instead of it dying down, how much money they're blowing on, folks, is what I mean. But instead of it dying down, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And now you got literal treason happening, and they're like, oh, but by the way, we're not going to announce who it is. Okay, conservative.
Okay, how stupid. Okay, you know what? Now we're back at this.
Oh, God.
Okay. How fucking crazy is it that there's no fucking contingency for CSIS where they say, okay, you know what? We are going to investigate people committing treason and we need to submit it to the Prime Minister. That's who we give our report to. Why is there no fucking contingency in there that says, A, if the guy's in on it, you do something different, and B, if he does nothing with it, you follow up in a different way? All of the laws in Canada are written to be as fucking bad as possible, and there isn't a single one that does not slant in the favor of the establishment bullshit fucking cocksuckers.
Agreed. Conservative candidates dropped. I actually, honestly, I don't even, man, we could stick on that for an hour. It honestly needs to be a podcast on
here. Boo-hoo, get over it. That's the other thing we didn't even talk about.
Yeah. That was what was her name? Why am I spacing?
Jen O'Connell.
Yeah. Yeah. Conservative candidates dropped. Candidate nomination candidates Leela Aheer and Wyatt Claypool in Calgary Signal Hill, Alberta, have been barred from running in the race to become the next candidate for the Conservatives. This is in a long string. What are we saying? Third time now?
This is the third time in about a month.
This was one we didn't get to a couple weeks ago. This is Rachel Gilliland from Aurora. She had here's her tweet saying, "It was with great regret that I inform all you that I will not be one of the Conservative Party nominees for our riding, and thus the possibility of me becoming," and she goes on and on and on, that, there's a whole bunch of different things. "I have since provided evidence of suspected interference." Yes. Right.
Okay. And then there was the former, I want to say, Globe reporter that said that she had said that this whole thing was stacked against her. And now Wyatt Claypool and Leela here,
yes,
in Calgary Signal Hill, which this is interesting because it used to be my riding. And the guy who was there, Ron Liepert, absolute fucking dead sack of shit the whole time he was there. Do you even know who he is, aside from me naming him now? He's been an MP since 2015. How many people listening to this right now even know the fucking guy's name? Because he just cashed a check and fucked off. He was an old school conservative MLA in Alberta, and then he got this cushy gig so that he could have a nice retirement portfolio. He put in a couple of years over the bare minimum and then said, peace out. Okay? And now you've got Leela here, who finished 7th in the leadership race for the UCP, and basically ran on an NDP platform. Why would you even go to the trouble of barring her in the first place? There's like 6 people in that entire riding who are going to vote for her, and they're all going to be accidental, okay? And then you've got Wyatt Claypool, who I've met a couple times, really reasonable guy, interested in actually representing the constituents, which apparently is a bad thing in the Conservative Party if you're in Alberta, because it doesn't poll well in Ontario, okay? Pierre Poilievre is not going to be the magical solution to all the fucking treason and everything else that the Liberals are up to. This is the 3rd riding in like a month where there's been allegations of this shit. And where there's smoke, there's fire. And when there's 3 different ridings that appear to be smoking, there's probably quite a lot of fire. I'm sorry, I seem a little bit randy today. But speaking of that,
the other Randy, okay? I'm going to pull this up because this is the cleverness we're up against in the federal government. They are smart, twos. I don't know how we're ever going to catch them. Ethics Commissioner Conrad von Finkenstein said he would, not to mention,
I'm sorry, his name's von Finkenstein?
Von Finkenstein.
Is he like a mad scientist from 1937?
This entire story is as bad as, or as good as this meme. Said he would take a further look into private text messages sent in 2022 by a mysterious Randy that raises questions about Employment Minister Randy Beausoleil's dealings with a former business partner a year after he joined the federal cabinet. Speaking of the House of Commons Ethics Commissioner, Beausoleil repeatedly denied that he is the Randy in question and said he has no operational role in the company he co-founded since he was reelected in 2021, even though he still owns half the shares in a numbered company that he disclosed to the ethics commissioner. Anderson told Global News that the Randy referred to in his text messages was not Beausoleil, but another employee who was head of logistics. He declined to share that employee's full name, and a representative of GAO, however, said it was her understanding that Anderson was referring to Beausoleil in the exchange. So it's like, who was the Randy? Can't disclose that. Okay. It was another Randy. But who was it?
We covered this a few weeks ago where he disclosed the name of the numbered company, and then it turned out that they did all their business dealings underneath their actual company. And so now, apparently, while he's supposed to be at arm's length, there's some other guy named Randy who works there. Seriously, the journalists could just look on LinkedIn and check out either the numbered company or the name of the company and figure out if there's more than one guy there named Randy, okay? Also, if it's a small company, how in the fuck is it a small company that's big enough to have a head of logistics? This whole fucking thing stinks, and we cover this shit every week, Sean.
You know, I see Twos is on a roll. This is, you know, it's like we're at a point now with the federal government where they're like, I'm just tired of acting like we're not just complete evil people. So let's just say it was a different Randy. Nobody's going to look anyways. And, this will blow over. It was a different Randy. It was like, well, who's the other Randy?
Blackface.
Who's the other Randy? Oh, well, we can't disclose that. We can't disclose who the other Randy is. I mean, that wouldn't be fair to him. But sir, you understand your name is Randy and that you're actually an owner in this company, and it kind of looks like you. Yeah, but it wasn't me. Like it just wasn't. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Next question.
It's Randy Heisenberg. Fuck's sakes.
Oh man. ArriveScan testimony, also a scam. ArriveScam official and top IT officer in the government testifies on reports he deleted emails related to ArriveScam. This official is selling a story that his laptop battery died, and this led to the key evidence being deleted. Well, here, I'll pull up the tweet.
So this is a 6-minute
video. Yes.
But although Michael Barrett's being a little bit overly concise, basically the story is that this guy's battery died in his laptop. And so he had to get a new laptop because that's the way government works. Oh, the battery's dead. Okay, well, we'll just get you a whole fucking new one. And when they transferred everything over to the new one, it didn't transfer over properly. And a couple of the files were corrupted. And it just so happened to be the exact ones that he needed or that were going to implicate him. And so the exact ones accidentally got corrupted. And they didn't bother to double check with the original laptop because it just disappeared like $1 billion at a.
You know what was great? The guy says, well, the emails aren't like the guy getting asked questions. Well, the emails are still there. And then the guy responds, well, yes, but now instead of going to your computer where it's all sitting there, isn't it convenient that it's all gone? And you're the head of IT. How often does it happen that a battery dies and then you put it in and all the files are gone? He's like, I've done this lots. It's a fantastic little 6-minute video to show just how convenient it is when it comes to the ArriveScan app. All the email, all the correspondence gone, but you can still find it if you go talk to everyone. If you go track down every email I sent.
And the thing about it is that like the whole thing fucking stinks in classic liberal fashion. Absolute and this is when Trump said he wanted to drain the swamp. This is the exact fucking swamp he's talking about. Because this guy isn't a liberal employee. He's not a conservative. He's the fucking establishment. Okay? And you mean to tell me that the head of IT for an entire fucking country's government doesn't have a single fucking cloud backup?
They think we're dumb too. Right? I've come to the conclusion they just think we're all a bunch of morons. And then they can just say whatever, and nobody's going to hold them to it.
Just say that in the interview. Just be like, look, there's no repercussions to me for lying here. You're not going to believe anything I say because it's going to be fantastical bullshit. So I'm going to say that the fucking platypus ate my laptop, and I didn't know what a cloud was. Sorry, guys. But hey, thanks for my job as being head of IT for the whole fucking country of Canada. I'm number 1 out of 40 million, and I don't know what a fucking cloud is.
Rob Schneider does most successful fundraiser ever in dollars raised per minute. America's comedian Rob Schneider, I think who we all know, was asked to end his set early and exit the stage during a fundraiser for the Hospitals of Regina Foundation Saturday night after comments and jokes made throughout the show. The foundation said Schneider's material did not align with the values of the team. Quoted, while we recognize that in a free and democratic society, individuals are entitled with their views and opinions, and the comedy is intended to be edgy, the content, positions, and opinions expressed during Mr. Schneider's set do not align with the values of our foundation and team, said the statement. Now, I want to just say they raised like $350,000.
They raised sold out. They raised $350,000, and he didn't even have to do the full set.
All I want to say, so the people who hired him, right? Were they sitting there thinking this was a good idea?
Like, you can see videos of him doing these exact shticks on the internet.
He's literally been criticizing COVID-19. I assume
for years.
I assume it had something to do with the pandemic. I just assume. And you're going to a Health Gala Foundation fundraiser, right? What do they call it? Regina Foundation. Yes, Hospitals of Regina Foundation. So you're doing this, and you bring in a guy who is going to criticize you the entire time. And then you get offended by
make
it?
fun of LGBT stuff.
Like, Regina is not a serious place right now, Twos.
No, absolutely not. But here's the thing is, it's hard to find any funny comedian in this day and age. You can find unfunny ones. But any comedian that's going to keep an entire crowd that big of people happy is going to tell some jokes about how stupid the trans thing has gotten, or how dumb the vaccinations are, or something to do with the giant pile of bullshit that we got fed during the COVID-19 lockdowns. It's inevitable. There's probably going to be a little bit of blackface jokes about the leader of the fucking free country of Canada, and maybe a little bit about treason. If you don't want that, hire a clown to make everybody fucking balloon animals. There's comments here.
Read a couple comments, sure.
Did Twos just present a typo that we follow through on? Yes, of course, Zane, I did. Everybody makes typos from time to time. Murray says they should get it for the Buffalo Party fundraiser. The Buffalo Party should actually let people know they still exist in the nicest way possible.
Oh, man. The NDP are not a serious party. How would I pull up the Jagmeet tweet? Said every single conservative MP, including Pierre Poilievre, voted against lowering your grocery prices. They voted against price caps on essential foods. They voted against ending corporate handouts to grocery giants. They were supported by liberals. Now you know where liberals and conservatives stand, and it's not with you.
Here's how price caps work. This isn't even into economics. This is just basic fucking math. If you're required by law to not sell a loaf of bread for more than, say, I don't know, $20, because inflation. Say no matter what, you can't sell a loaf of bread for more than $20. Okay, fair enough. That works for a little while, but inflation keeps coming up. And then pretty soon, the cheapest you can buy that loaf of bread for at wholesale is $21. How much bread are you going to sell? When you're legally mandated to sell it at a loss, you're just going to be like, well, I guess I'm just not going to sell any. This is how price caps work. This is why communism sucks. The bread lines in Venezuela and Ukraine and the whole USSR and Cuba and all of that stuff, it's because of things exactly like this. You don't even need to read Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell. You just need to understand that if inflation goes past where the government sets the cap, no one's going to sell any of it, and everybody fucking starves.
Carbon tax. Carbon tax? How about a smoke and mirrors tax instead?
And check it out, Zane. I forgot to capitalize the H.
Parliament Budget Officer releases a letter he received from Minister Guilbeault's office requesting him not to publicly release the economic analysis on the carbon tax, which I can pull
real quick. Let me jump in here. So, chapter 1 of this story was that the parliamentary budget officer Yves Giroux said in testimony that he had been silenced on releasing the actual numbers on the carbon tax. And then Stephen Guilbeault's tweets in a since deleted tweet. Now that this came out, he's deleted that tweet. But he basically said, that's bullshit. You're making it up. And then Max Fawcett jumped in, the ever-present idiot, and said, oh, well, you know what? Who's supposed to be releasing it anyway? It's supposed to be you. And then he says in a later tweet that it's draft data, even though it doesn't really actually say that anywhere. But then Yves Giroux, facing all of this backlash from all these different people in a beauty move for a public servant, says, here's the letter, guys. After Stephen Guilbeault openly said, I didn't send him no fucking letter. He says, well, yeah, okay, your assistant did, and here's the letter. And that's the letter that you're about to get to.
Can't prove anything. I didn't send no letter. On to the next story, right? Like, isn't that the way our politicians work?
Yeah.
Like, they're being caught red-handed everywhere they go.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't do
what letter? I didn't send that. What about this letter? Well, I mean, I didn't send that.
Like,
my assistant maybe sent it. You've literally signed the letter, sir. Oh, Oh, well, she uses a stamp though, so it wasn't me. I had no idea it was happening. You can't know what all the people around you are doing at all times.
Do you actually read all the terms and conditions before you agree to things? Come on. But that wasn't all that was going on with this carbon tax this week. But I mean, this is it. So basically the nuts and bolts of this is that there's a report somewhere saying that the carbon tax has been a financial fucking disaster, and the Parliamentary Budget Office is not allowed to release it, presumably at the behest of the Liberals, presumably because it's going to have a bunch of damning information. Now, speaking of damn information that people don't have, let me drop some truth bombs on Stephen Gayballs here. Here's him jogging for Clean Air Day. Every single thing that guy's wearing, his watch, his armband for his phone, the microphone, that polyester shirt, the ball cap. What's it all made out of, Sean?
I think, fairy dust?
Fairy dust. Correct. Okay. Same fairy dust that was used to pave the path that he's fucking running on in this video.
And you know what's great? Generational fairness. I'm in the middle of the book Atlas Shrugged, and to me, that statement right there is like he took it straight out of Atlas Shrugged. Everything is about fairness. For people 100 years from now, it's all about fairness for them.
Let's limit fairness. The speed and size of the trains to make it fair for the people,
for everyone. That ain't fair. We got to be fair for everybody, too. And
everyone needs to have Rearden metal.
That's right.
Okay. And this whole generational fairness, how fucking fair is it for some kid who's not going to be born for another 20 years to pay for the final 18 months of this fucking Liberal government's fucking disaster shit show? Tell me that's generational fairness.
Generational fairness. And then there was the tech scam going around about Canada carbon rebate, and urged everyone to stay alert. Twos.
Spoiler alert, Steve. The whole fucking thing is a scam. You're not going to get back. 80% of people are not going to get back more than it cost them. I hate to break it to you. All right, more comments though, real quick. With a touch of nitrous, not quite sure where that fit in. Is it a coincidence that Gilbo rhymes with dildo? I think not. Eileen. I can't say that on the internet. And Glenn says oil. All right.
Midfield amid oh boy. Midfield.
Yes.
Midfield amid malarkey. Parcels of a prime 24-acre site went up for sale to developers by the city of Calgary on Tuesday. The site had been vacant since February 2018, when the last of the residents of a mobile home community were evicted following a public legal battle.
So the city went to this whole trailer park and said, everyone needs to get the fuck out because we need to build something super important here. And then it went back and forth. And they're like, well, why do you need to kick us out? Why can't we just stay here? This is our fucking home. And they said, we're the city. It's eminent domain. We need to just take it over. And then this is ours now because we need it for stuff. Okay. And that was over 6 years ago that the last person left. Okay. So this has been going on for about a decade, that they really need this land and it's super mega important. And now the city's auctioning off that land. How much do you think that land has increased in value in the past decade? I'd say it's at least doubled.
At
least doubled. And worst case scenario, it's being sold right now. Everybody there, worst case scenario, could have just lived there for another 6 years. They kicked everybody out of their homes 6 years ago for a piece of land that they did nothing with, and then eventually said, fuck it, let's just auction it off because real estate's expensive now. This is the kind of stuff that makes people weld a bunch of cement blocks on a bulldozer. I'll tell you that.
We'll get to that. The truth shall set you free. Here's the Wall Street Journal. It says, behind closed doors, Biden shows signs of slipping. And I was saying to you twos, when Tucker Carlson, I feel like it was when Tucker Carlson.
I don't know exactly where you're going with this, so tell me the whole thing.
Well, watching Tucker Carlson in Canada when he came to Rogers Place and being around that time, he talked about how Michelle Obama was being shoulder tapped to run for the Democrats, but that she didn't want to have the full gauntlet of running. So the thought was Biden would go until it got about this time, and then they would start to leak things that said he's not fit to be president, and he's going to bow out.
We've been talking about this.
I agree. Sean. I agree, but now it's the Wall Street Journal, right? The Wall Street Journal wasn't publishing that he couldn't walk up a set of stairs or that he's bubbling along. He shit
himself when he met the Pope.
I understand. We all know it, but mainstream public is sitting there going, "Oh, Biden's going to be our guy. I'm going to vote for Biden. I'm going to vote for Biden." Now,
yeah, it's because they weren't standing downwind of him when he went to the Vatican.
Sure, but now they're, the what had been talked about when Tucker came, at least as my brain recalls it, is that they're going to have somebody, and i.e. Michelle Obama, step in last minute to see if they can, push this across the line and have the Democrats for another 4 years. Because Joe Biden, at this point, I mean, everything they do to Donald Trump, it just increases his. Did you see Joe Rogan talking about all the rappers now endorsing Trump because he's a felon? Like that was. It's like, this is freaking hilarious. They keep trying to make this guy, everything. They're just trying to ram him down and get him, he's a criminal now. He can't vote for a criminal. And now his popularity is soaring even more.
Yeah, because they made him into a martyr now, too.
So you look at the Biden thing. This was talked about, I don't know, what was that, 6 months ago, 8 months ago? But this exact thing was going to start to happen. And of course, we've all been watching going, this guy can't run. But they were saying that. And now you're starting to see it change.
I mean, the guy can't even walk, Sean. Of course he can't run.
Sure.
Okay, but now you've got Trudeau or Trump. Sorry, it's easy to get them mixed up. I just pissed off 100 people. You got Trump saying that he's going to declassify everything about 9/11, JFK, Epstein Island, and some other thing.
We'll see.
He said that on day one, he's now got the libertarians, who are the vote spoilers, basically in the States. They've got basically an NDP type guy leading the party now. And he said he's going to exonerate that Bitcoin dude who went to jail for 20 years for starting a Bitcoin exchange. And so, yeah, it's increasingly looking like I'm curious if it's going to be such a landslide that they even bother trying to cheat this time, right? They'll be like, look, we don't have enough duffel bags. So we're not even going to try and cheat, and then it's going to be something like 70-30.
I don't think that's the way they think. I think they're going to try.
You think they're going to, like, there's just going to be there's just going to be a whole bunch of super bees full of ballots just backing up to every fucking counting place in Michigan just to even the odds. And then when they finally do the vote tally, out of the 375 million Americans, there's going to be 826 million votes.
Yes, well, not quite, but I don't think they're going down.
I think it would be hilarious. I want to see them try, but I also think it would be funny if they're just like, it's so close that we're going to keep whatever, Bill Belichicking they've got figured out for the next election. We're going to keep it under our hats for now. We'll let him take this one because we can't possibly cheat that much. And then he's not going to go pull the fire alarm in the Steelers hotel the night before the game. And so then because it's an actual even playing field for once, it'll be like 70-30 Republican. I think it's got so many potentials to be hilarious.
Palestine is super gay. Here you go. Islamic scholar Youssef Makaharzar. Monkeypox is caused by homosexuality. Since they act like beasts, Allah has punished them with animal diseases. So that's the first part of this. The second part, twos, is you got the pro Hamas Palestine running into the LGBTQ, and this is the meme of them throwing them off a building. Well, and if you go up to Philly, this is a video, and it's Pride Parade having their march blocked by pro-Palestine protesters.
Yes, so the left, who's notoriously very pro-Palestine and also very pro-LGBTQ, have been just la 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 la. I can't hear you. Every time someone tries to point out that gay people get thrown off buildings in Palestine, and now the Palestinians are actually out in the streets roughing it up with the gays. So I mean, at least it's not on top of a building this time. But you know, you don't really hear too much from the progressive left about who they favor in either one of them, right? I just love that they're like, we're pro dog and pro cat. Except let's be honest, they're not pro dog. These people hate dogs. All right, now I'm sure we're gonna have to hear some fucking thing about this.
Oilers suck. Enjoy, folks.
This appears to be the worst one. Can you just tell us how hard this one hits Leon?
Jay Woodcroft out.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say.
You're better off to try to win this thing 4-1 or try to win it 7-5.
You love this question.
Are we seriously going to listen to like a 2-minute video here?
Times. We're trying to keep the puck up again, obviously.
You feel that needs to change?
There's so much stuff going wrong right now.
Everything.
These are, I don't know.
Oilers, I mean, it's expected.
This is without a doubt the worst Oilers team I've seen in my entire life.
32nd
Do we need to get
place
this
after tonight.
masturbatory and all of this,
Boston League.
Sean?
Can you believe it?
It's the reality, so, yep.
Dude, they're done. They're done.
This video isn't even half over yet.
Suck it up, Coos.
I'm gonna go get a beer. Like at the liquor store. And by the time I get back to the video, ain't got a choice, no way to prevent it. Just who I am, and I don't regret it. See what I want, then I go get it. Follow my God, I'm happy I get it. Beat all the odds, I ain't got no limit. Can it be stopped? I'm paying attention, I ain't gotta say it. They know my head is, they know my head is.
It's cup or bust.
It's a couple of us.
yeah, well, hey, Pride Week for these guys. Probably gonna be fucking
This game is over! This series is tied! Series This series is over! The Tips heading to the Stanley Cup final! Inside my DNA.
Shout out to Mac Media. I know Twos had this whole thing planned about the Oilers sucking a couple tweets. Who cares? Oilers going to the Stanley Cup Finals. That's all I got to say. I enjoyed it. It gets me excited. Game 1 Saturday night. Twos, I don't think you can ruin this for me. Yes, we just watched a 2-minute video because I've had to listen to you rant for the last 53 minutes. Not quite, but close. Close enough.
Oh my God. That was just
Oilers
I'm
going
sorry
to the
for
Stanley
everybody
Cup
who
Finals.
got so fucking
Woo!
bored they left during that. You can come back now.
Woo-hoo!
All right. So
Suck it up, buddy. Suck it up.
Danielle Smith, let's actually start covering things that are interesting. You know,
You want
like
to
the
talk about
news.
the stakes. Nobody cares about the stakes. You know who cares about the stakes? Max Fawcett. Nobody cares about it.
Okay. So here's
Nobody
the
cares
thing.
about it.
So Max Fawcett says taxpayers on the hook because the premier won a bet only in Alberta. This stuff happens all the fucking time. And then he says deleting this because it was excessively grumpy and it's fine if the governor of Texas paid to have Alberta stakes sent his way. Go Oilers. Dude is so. This is the guy that you
Nobody
just
cares.
asked like a month ago if I would be interested in having him come on the show. This is the guy.
Okay,
Come
listen,
on.
listen.
All right.
I don't
Go
care.
on.
The Oilers are going to the Stanley Cup Finals. The story is they were once upon a time
That's not
the
the
lowest
story.
team.
This is the story.
Okay, yeah, that's a good meme too. And if you haven't seen the lady flashing her boobies,
How have you not? Have you not turned on the internet in the past? Yeah. The Oilers lady and her boobsicles. Yes. So there's that. But then also here, I just in all seriousness, as someone who's been at a Canadian team in the Stanley Cup Finals in the last 20 years, I need you to understand that Bettman does not want you to win. I also don't want you to win. I'm now a bandwagon Panthers fan, so thanks for that. Okay, but
I've been watching. I just finished watching the Tucker Carlson and the president of El Salvador. If they can clean up that country, and you go listen to that, folks, it's a wonderful interview. The Oilers can get past Bettman and win the Stanley Cup and bring it back to Canada. That's all I'm saying. Two is we could talk about this for the next hour. We still have headlines. You still want to go.
Here's the thing, though. Okay, what I've got up on the screen is the 2004 goal from Game 6, the Stanley Cup Finals, that the Flames got, that there was no instant replay on. And I'm telling you that he's basically going to try and Bill Belichick this thing for you guys. So watch out for cheating. Watch out for chicanery. Watch out for all that greasy shit, because it's going to happen.
Yes, it is.
So just be ready.
You're not making arguments on me there at all.
And that is advice from an expert.
As if cancer didn't suck enough already. On a webpage dedicated to cervical cancer, the Canadian Cancer Society is apologizing for referring to the cervix by its technical name rather than the euphemisms such as front hole. The agency also conceded that men can have these body parts too. No, they can't.
Technically, you could have a front hole. All you need is a gun.
In a words matter section on the organization's official website, the Canadian Cancer Society atoned for the fact that some non-binary and transgender people might find the term cervix offensive and prefer to use the term front hole or to refer to female genitalia. Man, I can't spit that out because it's a
maybe some people find the word front hole offensive and want to refer to it as a cervix. There's a whole lot of other words that Eileen could probably help us out with, because she seems to know like all these other words we can't say on the internet. But there's a lot of other words out there that are probably fairly offensive. One of them starts with C. Should they just start using the C word and just get everybody equally offended? I think maybe that's what we should do. Personally. Do you know which word I'm talking about, Sean?
I know what word you're talking about.
Why don't you just tell me so that I know we're on the same page?
No, I'm going to go here. Lisa says, "Let's go Oilers. I've been waiting all week to hear the dialogue between you two." And yeah, Calgary Flames fan don't have much but to go back to when they were in the Stanley Cup Finals. And I don't know if you know this, but starting Saturday, we're in the Stanley Cup Finals, and that should be a lot of fun. Just saying, Tews.
Yeah, it should be a great 4 games for you guys. I hope you enjoy it.
We'll see. You want to put money on it again, Tews? You want to put a little bet on this one? You finally gonna back the Florida Panthers, or you get a?
Yeah, I'm gonna back Florida.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, by the time next week comes, me and Tews will have come to an arrangement on what we're going to do if the Oilers win or the Panthers win. Done?
Okay. Loser cuts their dick off.
No.
Oh, who's backing down now, Sean?
I'm not backing down at all. That's a ridiculous...
You're totally backing down. Oh, how much do you believe in your team now? It's not even like you got that much to cut off. What's the big deal?
Oh, man. Okay.
Oh, you'd be able
this
to
is what I have to deal with. Sure. Okay.
Well, yeah,
I could identify as a woman, and I could go, yeah, sure. Yeah.
That was the other thing. There was a transgender, so more trannies are winning state championships in the States, and one of them was complaining because he got booed. Well, you know what? Maybe if you guys got second or third every once in a while, people wouldn't think this was so fucking stacked against you.
Tuesday, I got a word that would make even you blush. That's Eileen Clark. And then Leanne Taylor said, I have a meme I would really like to post. Flames fans are all cheering for Panthers. Is it the one with the chick from the Panthers now? I assume it's that. I don't know.
I don't know.
Oil and gas taking you to school. By the time next week comes, Saturday's game 1, me and Tews are going to actually have a bet, and it's not going to be a trans bet. You know, like Tews wants to go where the world is. I think he needs to pull his head into where something a little more, I don't know, respectable maybe. I don't really feel like getting into the LGBTQ community because, you know, at the end when the Panthers lose, then I'd have to have a trans host. Don't really don't really care for that, Twos. I really don't care for that. Okay. So oil and gas is taking you to school. Saskatchewan high school students interested in a career with the oil and gas industry will be able to get a head start thanks to new classes that will be offered in the near future. Oil and Gas 20 will begin to be offered in the second semester of 24-25, Oil and Gas 30 in 25-26, and students will learn about the importance of the oil and gas industry, gain knowledge about career opportunities available in Saskatchewan's thriving energy industry, and local companies will receive support in building a future workforce to meet consumer demand, said the release.
I think this is perfect. It should almost be the happy news. You got this for the construction industry already. There's programs like this where kids go and I imagine they just do a bunch of gophering and maybe holding nails and hitting their thumb the odd time, but nothing too technical or difficult. And they get a little bit of experience in construction, and then it helps them get a shoe in the door when they want to get into a trade out of high school, right? I mean, it's probably more, there's a lot of silly electives you can take even just in high school, right? You don't have to get into the advanced lesbian dance theory of university. And so, hey, you know what? Here's a program that an oil company is embracing, saying, hey, you know what? This will help you see what it's like. Maybe you could be interested in it, and it's part of the school program. It's a win-win on every front. The only people who are mad about it are idiots.
Agreed. Killdozer anniversary. I don't know if we need to say much more. Let's look at some.
No, we need to say a lot. This is important. I feel like, and actually, of all weeks, this week is one where I just relate to this guy so fucking much.
Never forget what happens when reasonable men are pushed to do unreasonable things.
So for those of you who don't recall off the top of your head,
there's a documentary on Netflix about it, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. So 20 years ago, Meyer was a guy in Granby, Colorado. He had a mechanic shop, and then the town approved construction of a concrete factory next to him that happened to be over top of the only road going into his place. And then they wouldn't approve construction of a road anywhere else, and then fined him because he was no longer connected to the town sewer. And so he fought this for literally years. And then eventually he bought a bulldozer, covered it in armor plating and like thick steel and cement, put a camera out in a bunch of different ways, welded himself into it with the gun, drove around. I think it was $7 million worth of property destruction.
Correct. Yeah.
And then when he went to the hardware store, it had a basement he didn't know about. The bulldozer got stuck on it. And then he took his own life because they were trying to shoot into the bulldozer with small arms, and they couldn't get it. And they didn't have anything big enough to take it out. And so anyway, his whole thing was that he was reasonable until it was time to not be reasonable anymore. And that was 20 years ago this year. I think we should talk about it every year, though. Hell, if this hasn't been a Killdozer set of news this week, Sean,
yes, that's what Dave Collin was saying on the podcast. Is why isn't there more? Not Killdozers, but that's basically what he was saying.
It's not why was there a Killdozer. It's why has there only been one Killdozer.
Correct. WestJet goes full Air Canada. WestJet has unveiled a new lower cost option for its flights. It's called Ultra Basic. The new fare structure will allow you to bring on board one personal item that can be stored under the seat in front of you, not above, in front of the seat, okay? You get a pre-assigned seat at the back of the aircraft. You get to board last, no cancel option, and you won't earn any WestJet reward points when you fly this way.
This is incredibly short-sighted, right? Like, I get the fact that they're trying to get rid of carry-on stuff, but you know, those cargo pants with like 15 pockets, maybe put on like a fly fishing vest. I would totally do it just to prove a fucking point.
Sir, what's in your front pocket? Oh, just my boxers.
Everything.
What's in your other one? Another set of socks.
I'm gonna have security socks over here. I'm gonna be wearing like 8 pairs of underwear, 7 jackets. Like, I don't even need a jacket where I'm going. It's just because you guys are dicks.
A tribe called Mest. A reclusive tribe in an Amazon finally got hooked up in the internet thanks to Elon Musk. Great news.
Hey,
only to be torn apart by
what could possibly go wrong?
Only to be torn apart by social media and pornography addictions.
Like 6 months later.
Yes.
So they go to this isolated tribe in the Amazon, and they're like, here's this magical statue. And if you worship it, it'll put stuff on your phones. These are phones, by the way. You're going to like them. I don't know where you're going to charge them. Do you guys have, what kind of outlets do we need? What kind of charging cables do we need to give you for your huts? This uncontacted tribe. But I don't know. I assume they, worked out a few solar batteries or something like that. And everybody in the town gets to use Starlink. And 6 months later, nobody wants to do anything because they're all addicted to shit talking each other on social media and watching porn.
Oh, man.
I think they need to repeat this experiment.
The longest ballot. Last week we had on Donovan Ekstrom. I think that was the highlight of the week. Anyways, this is a tweet he had. I think Marner is a bum. Get rid of him. Vote Donovan Ekstrom in the Toronto St. Paul's by-election. And, people are like, was that a joke last week? What's going on? Well, as nominations close Monday on the Toronto St. Paul's federal by-election, an enduring election activism campaign has ensured it'll be one for the record books. As of early Monday afternoon, 77 candidates are registered to contest the riding that has held consistently the Liberals for the last 3 decades, which will easily break Winnipeg's South Centre record-breaking 48-name ballot during last year's federal by-election. I can read on. You get the point. 77 people, one from as far away as 500 kilometers away, has signed on to that ballot.
I'd say he's probably more than 500 kilometers away.
No, not him. He's living there. There's a lady in the news article that was up in like way northern Ontario.
Yeah, but Donovan Ekstrom's in Grand Prairie, and he signed on to it.
I thought I thought he was originally from Grand Prairie. Did I miss that? Okay, fine. All right.
Yeah, no, dude, that's what was so awesome about it is he's just like, hi, I'm in Grand Prairie. Vote for me for Toronto because you need less Toronto people running your politics.
Oh, man. Obviously, Sean was laughing too hard and didn't clue in that he's sitting in Grand Prairie. Sorry, Donovan.
All right. So
either way, 77 people on the ballot.
They had to get special dispensation or amend the laws of the Election Act to fit all the names on one ballot sheet.
Yeah.
And they said it's like the size of a newspaper, the ballot sheet. I don't know. Maybe we should run in the next one. I just think it's fun and interesting. Let's see how it fucking plays out.
Yes. Local news. Twos.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess I could take point on this, seeing as I'm the only one who did my homework. So, Rocky View Weekly. So for those of you unfamiliar with this newspaper, it does Crossfield, Carstairs, Cremona, Cochrane, Canmore, Calgary, Chestermere, Caroline, all the towns that start with C in the whole general vicinity. And it's kind of a rag, to be honest. I was so excited when I first moved here. I was like, I get the paper delivered to me. And now it took about a year before I just quit reading it entirely. But here's a nice long article about a prominent ecologist speaking about land use planning in the Bragg Creek region. And so he's got pictures of himself over the years, and it's all a real tearjerker. And then at the 40-minute mark, Stel Fox said in the time he'd been talking, which is 40 minutes, in Alberta, 72 hectares of forest had been cut down, 14 new well sites drilled, gas-powered vehicles traveled 39.2 million kilometers, 4,105 tons of garbage produced, 10 hectares of land converted to residential, and the population grew by 87 in 40 minutes. Now, there's a little over 4.5 million people drove.
Twos, get to the point.
Okay,
local news isn't reading an essay.
At 14 new well sites drilled, that is 184,000 well sites in a year. Okay? there are only 466,000 well sites in Alberta, and oh shit, I closed it.
I don't
and
care.
Basically, 3,000 of them got
local news in
point is,
Lloydminster.
The local news in this newspaper sucks, and you wonder why it's dying. Look, in 2022 or 2023, less than 3,000 got drilled, and his math was what? 184,000.
Thank you for that. We go to put in local news. We literally go to put in local news, and Twos reads me a story. I'm snoring on this side. Okay, in local news in Lloydminster, the high school I went to, graduated in, just did a giant expansion.
Best 6 years of his life.
Home of the Barons. There you go. And they just completed it. $28.8 million. They got 335 new students coming in. Grade 9 is going to be there. Interesting news here in Lloydminster. An expansion on the high school I went to. Boom. Twos. Moving on with life. Holy man. Hard to miss Alabama. You'd think we were going to go for 7 hours today with the way Twos is reading his local news. Hard to miss Alabama. There you go. This is Miss Alabama.
Yes. So plus size Miss Alabama, Sarah Milliken, hits back at cruel trolls who mocked her for her looks after winning 2024 beauty pageant. Sarah Milliken. This is what Sarah Milliken looks like. Sarah Milliken.
Somewhere Jack's going, yeah.
Jack Milliken is saying that. Yes. Yeah. So this is
I mean, it's what a world we live in right now. That's all I could do.
She thinks the world revolves around her just because gravitationally it does.
The real minimum wage is zero. California fast food restaurants have slashed nearly 10,000 jobs because of the state's new $20 minimum wage as struggling franchises cut labor costs and raise prices to survive, a major trade group said Thursday. Several major chains, including McDonald's, Burger King, and even low fast food favorites In-N-Out Burger, jacked up prices to offset their higher wages. Many had to cut employees' hours, and some have expedited a move to automation. Unintended consequences, Twos. We're gonna make minimum wage $20. Yeah,
okay,
probably not.
So originally, minimum wage laws were brought in to try and keep minorities from getting the jobs. When you look at minimum wage laws, they were first brought in the States, and the plan was to keep those evil blacks from taking all the white people jobs. And so that was the whole idea behind them. And then now it's become this leftist thing, which actually makes a lot of sense because they're super racist, where they're just like, oh, we want a higher minimum wage and a higher minimum wage. And the government needs to stay out of our bedrooms, but they need to get involved with our employment contracts. And this is what happens when you let stupid left people vote for stupid leftist things.
Stop being such a front hole. Quebec's legislation has adopted a new law that includes fines up to $1,500. Nope. Political harassment is illegal. Quebec's legislature has adopted a law that includes fines up to $1,500 for anyone who intimidates or harasses a politician. The coalition Avenir Quebec government has said the law is necessary to stem the rise in resignations of elected officials, particularly at the municipal level.
So the CAC party has passed a law saying it's illegal for people to make fun of them. If only there was a simpler way to get people to not make fun of the CAC party.
Yeah, Quebec's got to watch out. That's tough, you know?
Okay, honestly, if you want people to stop making fun of you and harassing you and being mean to you, stop committing fucking treason.
Dr. Pepper is number 2. We're number 2. Dr. Pepper just officially passed Pepsi as the second most popular soda brand in America.
See, this was interesting because remember when Snapple was like, we're number 3 and we're happy that we're number 3 and whatever in the 90s? I had assumed at that point that the entire gamut of Coca-Cola beverages was number 1 and the entire run of Pepsi beverages was number 2. Because Coke was number 1 and Pepsi was number 2. So I figured that was that whole thing.
Yes.
And now it looks like Coca-Cola specifically is number one. Dr. Pepper specifically is number two, which makes a lot of sense because Dr. Pepper is delicious. It's wonderful. Be careful when you mix it with rye, though, because if you have like a glass of whiskey and you put an eyedropper full of Dr. Pepper in it, it just tastes like Dr. Pepper.
Drinking tips with twos on a Friday morning, folks. Dr. Pepper, number 2. And when mixed with rye, is completely lethal. A stream of crap. Online streaming services such as Netflix and Spotify are being told they must start contributing money towards local news and the production of Canadian content. On Tuesday, the Canadian Radio, Television, and Telecommunications Commission directed foreign streamers to pay 5% of their annual Canadian revenues into a fund.
So that's the thing. They can't just put it towards Canadian things. They can't say that 5% of the revenue they get here has to be spent in Canada, right? It's got to go towards this fund. And then the government decides who gets to do it. So when Netflix bought Trailer Park Boys and did another like 8 seasons and 5 movies of that, none of that counts because it didn't go through the fund.
Yeah, they want the control. Okay. They want the money.
This is the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. None of that. I mean, granted, that was 20 years ago.
Was that Canadian?
Yeah, it got filmed in Alberta, right?
I didn't know that. That
Same
was a great flick.
Brokeback Mountain.
Brokeback Mountain got filmed in Canada?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, right over there, oddly enough.
This is just to go back to the Netflix, Spotify.
If the liberals want more Brokeback Mountains, they got to get away from this bullshit.
This is this Netflix Spotify thing will be very interesting. This Spotify thing from where we stand, right? From the podcast, from this show, the online streaming tax. It's going to be very interesting to see where this plays out for us and for others.
See, because it's the government that decides, because the fund. It can't be like Netflix can't go to us and be like, hey, you know what? We want to pick up the Mashup. We'll give you $7 million for the first.
I don't mean it that way. I mean, if Netflix or Spotify
that's the thing, right?
Buck Canadians, be like,
that would be the logical conclusion, right? Is they say, okay, well, look, you got to spend 5% of your revenue in Canada, and they'd say, okay, well, that's fine. We're going to make a bunch more Canadian stuff, and we'll show you guys the books to make sure it's on the up and up. But they're like, no. You need to give it to our slush fund, and then we're going to give it to CBC. Like, how fucked is it that they have to pay 5% of their revenue to their competitors? Could you imagine if Ford was required to pay Dodge 5% of their revenue? Or like, how choked would you be if Edmonton had to give Calgary 5% of the money it made during the playoffs this year? Right? This is literally this exact thing in media. Except it's the dying media. It'd be actually not like Ford paying out Dodge. It would be like Ford paying out the buggy makers 5% every year. I take it Hughes is talking from experience regarding Dr. Pepper and rye. Yeah, it was a road trip up to L'Orange one time, and we were getting bored, and all we had for mix was Dr. Pepper. We're like, well, actually, this is way better than anything else we've ever tried.
Happy news?
Yes.
Happy news. Together we raised more than 200. Well, here, I'm going to pull up the picture. Let's pull it up first here, folks. Okay, here you go. This guy right here, 90-year-old Air Force veteran working at a grocery store, and a lady walking by for our news anchor, I think. She stops, talks to him, ends up getting a GoFundMe page going for him because this guy has got to work to live. And she says, together we raised more than $220,000 in 24 hours, enough for him to retire. Should he choose to remain working, it'll be just that, his choice. No longer will the 90-year-old veteran have to push shopping carts in triple-digit heat to put food on his table. There you go.
I don't even know if that's hot. I don't understand Fahrenheit.
Small act of kindness goes a long way, and that's pretty cool.
And
community notes here. Okay, we got June 7th tonight, Il Scarlet in Calgary. June 22nd, Aaron Goodwin, Garrett Gregory in Marwayne. You got June 17th, an Injection of Truth Town Hall in Calgary. It is sold out. You can still get live streaming access if you go to an injectionoftruth.ca. You got what else? What else, Tues? What am I missing here? The
Pete Night Days tonight and tomorrow in Crossfield, Alberta.
You got Francis, Saskatchewan fundraiser tomorrow, June 8th in Francis, Saskatchewan. It's a rink fundraiser. That's what I got for you. That's what I got. Mashup 110 in the books. We went from Normandy to treason.
To
the Edmonton Oilers in the Stanley Cup Finals. Ooh.
Yeah. So I mean, it's only slightly worse than treason.
It's gonna be a great week.
Oilers sucked it. Oilers sucked it.
That's gonna do it, bro. We'll catch up to you next week. Tues as always. See you next week.
Oh,
folks.
wait. Don't hit the button yet. Don't hit the button.
Veterans for
Southgate.
15th in Red Deer. Yes. All right. We're out. Till next week.